Imagine for a moment a ship in the middle of a violent ocean. The waves are crashing against the hull, towering 30 feet high. The wind is screaming, tearing at the sails. The crew is panicked, running aimlessly, screaming into the void. The ship is being tossed around like a toy, completely at the mercy of the chaos surrounding it. This is how most people live their lives. The storm represents the world, the unpredictable events, the rude comments, the traffic jams, the financial crises, the betrayals. And the ship? That is you. When the storm hits, you are tossed around, you react, you scream, you break. You are a slave to the weather. Now, imagine a lighthouse standing firmly on a jagged rock nearby. The same storm is raging. The same waves are crashing with enough force to shatter bone. The same wind is howling. But the lighthouse does not move. It does not scream. It does not panic. It simply stands. It shines its light cutting through the darkness, completely unaffected by the chaos crashing against its base. It observes the storm, but it does not become the storm. This video is not about how to stop the storm. You cannot stop the storm. Life will always bring you challenges. People will always test you. Pain is inevitable. This video is about how to stop being the ship and how to start being the lighthouse. It is the art of emotional alchemy. How to be in control of your emotions, not by suppressing them, but by understanding them, transmuting them, and mastering them. We are going to embark on a deep journey together. This is not a quick fix. This is a transformation of your entire operating system. We will walk through 7 distinct stages of emotional mastery. By the time we reach the end, you will have the tools not just to survive your feelings, but to use them as fuel for your awakening. Welcome to Awakened Wisdom. Let us begin. The first and most dangerous misconception we must dismantle is the idea that controlling your emotions means suppressing them. When we hear the phrase emotional control, we often picture a stone-faced individual, cold, detached, someone who feels nothing. We think of the soldier who buries his trauma, or the father who never cries. But let me tell you this: suppression is not control. Suppression is a ticking time bomb. Imagine holding a beach ball underwater. You have to exert constant pressure to keep it down. It takes energy. It takes focus. And the moment you get tired, the moment your grip slips, even for a second, that ball shoots up out of the water with tremendous force, splashing everyone around you. That is suppression. You swallow your anger at work. You swallow your frustration with your partner. You swallow your sadness about your past. You think you are in control because you are quiet, but inside the pressure is building, and eventually you explode. You snap over something small, a spilled cup of coffee, a slow internet connection, and the reaction is disproportionate to the event. That is not mastery. That is fragility. True emotional control is not about the absence of emotion. It is the relationship you have with the emotion. It is the difference between being carried away by a river and sitting on the bank watching the river flow. The water is still there. The current is still strong. But you are not drowning in it. To understand this, we must look at the biology of your own mind. Deep inside your brain, there is an ancient structure called the amygdala. This is your survival mechanism. It is the alarm bell. When it perceives a threat, whether that threat is a saber-toothed tiger or a rude comment on social media, it triggers the fight or flight response. Your heart rate spikes. Adrenaline floods your system. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logic, reason, and long-term planning, actually shuts down. You literally become less intelligent when you are emotionally hijacked. This is why you say things you regret when you are angry. This is why you make terrible financial decisions when you are fearful. You are operating from a primitive, animalistic state. The first step to mastery, therefore, is not to fight the amygdala, but to recognize it. You must understand that your emotions are data, not directives. When you feel a surge of anger, that is data. It is telling you that a boundary has been crossed or an expectation has not been met. When you feel fear, that is data. It is telling you that there is a perceived danger or uncertainty. The master receives the data, analyzes it, and then decides how to act. The slave receives the data and immediately obeys it. Think of your emotions as a dashboard in a car. If the check engine light comes on, you don't smash the dashboard with a hammer to make the light go away. That would be suppression. You also don't panic and drive the car off a cliff. That would be reactivity. No, you look at the light, you acknowledge it, and you investigate what is going on under the hood. You remain the driver. Most people spend their entire lives sitting in the passenger seat, letting their trauma and their triggers drive the car. Today, we are moving you back into the driver's seat. There is a quote often attributed to the psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl that serves as the foundation of all emotional intelligence. He said, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." Read that again in your mind. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. The stimulus is what happens to you. It is the external event. The driver cuts you off. Your boss criticizes your work. Your partner forgets your anniversary. You have absolutely no control over the stimulus. The universe will throw at you what it wills. The response is what you do. You scream at the driver. You sulk at your desk. You start an argument. This is where your karma is created. This is where your destiny is forged. Most people live their lives with zero distance between stimulus and response. Stimulus happens, response happens. It is instantaneous. It is automatic. It is robotic. Trigger, reaction. Trigger, reaction. They are like a light switch. You flick the switch, the light goes on. There is no choice involved. The master, however, lives in the gap. The gap is that tiny fraction of a second, or perhaps a few seconds, between the trigger and the action. Mastering your emotions is entirely about widening this gap. How do we do this? It starts with the physiology of the pause. When you feel the surge of emotion, that heat rising in your chest when you are angry, or that pit in your stomach when you are anxious, your first command to yourself must be stop. You must physically interrupt the neural pathway. The most effective way to do this is through the breath. The breath is the remote control of the nervous system. When you are stressed, your breath becomes shallow and fast. By consciously taking a deep, slow breath, inhaling for 4 seconds, holding for 4 seconds, and exhaling for 4 seconds, you send a signal from your body back to your brain that says, "We are safe." You manually override the amygdala. You force the prefrontal cortex to come back online. In that moment of the pause, you ask yourself a powerful question. This question comes from the Stoic emperor Marcus Aurelius. You ask, is this essential? Or perhaps, is this within my control? Let's apply this. Someone insults you. The stimulus is the insult. The old you would immediately insult them back. That is the automatic response. But the awakened you feels the anger rising. You feel the urge to attack. But you catch it. You take a breath. You enter the gap. In that space, you realize, this person is projecting their own pain onto me. If I react, I am handing them the remote control to my emotional state. I am letting them dictate my inner peace. In that realization, the anger transforms. It changes from a hot, burning desire to attack into a cool, detached observation. You might even feel pity for them, and then you choose your response. Maybe you walk away, maybe you say nothing, maybe you respond with calmness. Whatever you do, it is a choice, not a reflex. This practice of the pause sounds simple, but it is the hardest thing you will ever do. It requires constant vigilance. It requires you to be awake in a world that is asleep. Every time you succeed in widening the gap, you build a muscle. You are rewiring your brain. You are carving a new neural pathway that leads to peace instead of chaos. You must understand that the immediate emotion is often a lie. The initial flare-up is biology, not truth. Have you ever been furious about something only to find out 10 minutes later you misunderstood the situation? If you had acted in those first 10 minutes, you would have caused irreversible damage. By waiting, by sitting in the gap, you allowed the truth to surface. The gap is where your dignity lives. The gap is where your character is built. A person who has no gap has no character. They are simply a biological machine reacting to inputs. To be a human, a fully awakened human, is to inhabit that space of choice. We have learned to pause. We have learned to breathe. Now we must learn to see. The great Stoic philosopher Epictetus famously said, "Men are not disturbed by things, but by the view they take of them." This is the single most important psychological truth you will ever learn. Events in themselves are neutral. Reality has no opinion. The rain is not bad, it is just water falling from the sky. The traffic is not annoying, it is simply cars occupying the same space. The insult is not hurtful, it is merely sound waves vibrating in the air produced by another person's vocal cords. The emotion does not come from the event. The emotion comes from the story you tell yourself about the event. This is the narrative filter. Let's look closely at this. Imagine two people lose their jobs on the same day. Person A tells themselves a story of catastrophe. "This is a disaster. I am a failure. I will never find another job. My life is over." The result? Depression, paralysis, panic. Person B tells themselves a story of opportunity. "This job was draining my soul. Now I finally have the freedom to pursue the career I actually want. This is a fresh start." The result? Excitement, motivation, hope. The event, losing the job, was identical. The emotional outcome was opposite. Why? Because the narrative was different. Most of us are addicted to negative narratives. We are the directors of our own tragic movies. When a friend doesn't text back immediately, the narrative machine starts. "They are ignoring me. I must have done something wrong. Nobody likes me." You create suffering out of thin air. The reality is simply, they haven't textured back yet. That is the only truth. Everything else is a fiction you wrote in your head. To master your emotions, you must become a ruthlessly objective editor of your own thoughts. You must strip away the adjectives. Instead of saying, "My ungrateful child screamed at me and ruined my morning," strip it down to the facts. My child screamed. I felt a spike of cortisol. Do you see the difference? The first version makes you a victim. It assigns blame, ungrateful, and catastrophe, ruined. The second version is just a report of what happened. When you stick to the facts, the emotion loses its power. It cannot latch on to the hooks of your ego. This practice is called cognitive reframing. It is the art of choosing the most empowering interpretation of any situation. When someone cuts you off in traffic, the default story is, "That jerk disrespects me." The reframed story is, "Maybe he is rushing to the hospital. Maybe he is having the worst day of his life. It has nothing to do with me." You don't do this to be nice to them. You do this to protect your peace. Why should you poison your own blood with anger because of a stranger you will never see again? That is not punishment for them. It is punishment for you. You must realize that you are the gatekeeper of meaning. Nothing has meaning until you give it meaning. If you decide that a rainy day is a cozy opportunity to read, then it is. If you decide it is a gloomy day that ruins your plans, then it is. You are the god of your own inner world. Stop letting external circumstances dictate the script. You hold the pen. Rewrite the scene. We often talk about emotional control as an internal battle, but we ignore the battlefield itself. You cannot expect to have a peaceful mind if you are living in a war zone. The Stoics spoke of the inner citadel, a fortress of the mind that is impregnable. But to build that inner fortress, you must first secure the outer perimeter. You are a porous being. You are constantly absorbing the energy, the emotions, and the vibrations of the environment around you. This is called emotional contagion. If you sit next to a person who is stressed, anxious, and vibrating with nervous energy, your heart rate will actually synchronize with theirs. You will start to feel anxious without knowing why. Conversely, if you are around someone who is grounded, calm, and strong, your nervous system will relax. If you want to control your emotions, you must ruthlessly curate your environment. You must conduct an audit of the people in your life. Who are the sources of chaos? Who are the drama addicts? Who are the people that, after you spend an hour with them, leave you feeling drained, angry, or cynical? You cannot master your emotions if you are constantly drinking poison. You might think, I can handle them, I am strong. But why make the battle harder than it needs to be? Why swim upstream with weights tied to your ankles? Seneca warned us, avoid the many, avoid the crowd. He didn't mean you should become a hermit. He meant you should protect your mind from the infectious diseases of the mob, panic, outrage, greed, and hysteria. And in the modern world, the crowd is not just people. It is the device in your pocket. Your phone is the greatest enemy of emotional stability ever invented. It is a machine designed by the smartest engineers in the world to hijack your amygdala. The news cycle is monetized by your outrage. They need you to be angry. They need you to be fearful. If you are calm, you don't click. If you are content, you don't buy. So they bombard you with breaking news, with tragedies from across the globe, with political polarization. They are dumping garbage into your living room 24 hours a day. How can you possibly be in control of your emotions when you start your day by scrolling through the chaos of the world? You are waking up and immediately handing the keys to your emotional state to strangers, algorithms, and advertisers. To build the citadel, you must establish strict boundaries. Make your mornings sacred. No phone for the first hour. No news. No email. Claim that territory for yourself before the world invades it. Curate your digital diet. Unfollow the accounts that trigger your insecurity or your anger. Mute the noise. Your mind is a temple, not a public dumping ground. Guard the door. If you don't control what enters, you cannot control what happens inside. Why do we get angry? Why do we get frustrated? If you analyze it deeply, you will find that the root of almost all negative emotion is surprise. It is the gap between expectation and reality. You get angry at the traffic because you expected the road to be clear. You get frustrated with your partner because you expected them to behave differently. You are shocked when things go wrong. But why are you shocked? Have you ever driven on a highway before? Is traffic a rare occurrence? No, it happens every day. Have human beings ever been selfish, forgetful, or rude before? Yes, it has been happening for thousands of years. So why do you live with the naive expectation that today will be perfect? That today everyone will be kind? That today everything will go according to plan? The Stoics developed a powerful psychological tool to eliminate this shock. They called it premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. This is not pessimism. This is preparation. It is emotional armor. Every morning, before you start your day, visualize what could go wrong. Tell yourself, today I will likely encounter a rude person. Today, technology might fail. Today, I might get stuck in traffic. Today, plans might get canceled. Don't just say it, feel it. Visualize the frustration. And then visualize yourself responding with total calm. Visualize the rude person shouting at you and see yourself smiling, unbothered, like the lighthouse in the storm. When you do this, you are vaccinating yourself against the world. When the traffic actually happens, instead of screaming, "Why me?" you think, here it is. I was expecting you. I am ready. You cannot be ambushed by an enemy you have already seen. The shock is gone, and without the shock, the anger cannot take root. Marcus Aurelius began his mornings with this exact meditation. Today I shall meet with the meddling, the ungrateful, the arrogant, the deceitful, the envious, the unsocial. He didn't say this to be bitter. He said it so that when he met them, he could love them anyway. He understood that they act this way out of ignorance of what is good and evil. He understood that they are part of nature, just like the wind or the rain. You don't get angry at the wind for blowing. Why get angry at a human for being human? This practice of the pre-mortem extends to the biggest fears of all: loss, failure, death. Most people live in denial. They push the thought of loss away, so when it happens, it shatters them. The master looks at their loved ones and realizes, this is temporary. I could lose this. This doesn't make you cold. Paradoxically, it makes you love them more fiercely. It makes you cherish every moment. It prevents you from taking them for granted. And if the loss does come, you are still standing because you have already walked through the fire in your mind. You must kill the entitlement that says the universe owes you a smooth path. The universe owes you nothing. Chaos is the default state of nature. Order is what you create internally. By anticipating the chaos, you rob it of its power to hurt you. You become anti-fragile. The blows that break others only make you stronger because you were braced for impact. We have fortified our defenses. We have prepared for the enemy. Now, we must ascend. To truly master your emotions, you must learn to leave yourself behind. Most of our suffering comes from a simple optical illusion. We are zoomed in too close. We live our lives with our nose pressed against the glass of reality. When you are that close, every scratch looks like a canyon. Every speck of dust looks like a boulder. Every minor inconvenience feels like a tragedy. We become the center of our own universe. We think, why did he say that to me? Why is this happening to me? The ego is obsessed with the I, and the I is easily offended, easily hurt, and perpetually terrified. To break this illusion, we use a technique the ancients called the view from above. It is a shift in perspective so radical that it instantly dissolves the trivial emotions that consume your day. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine you are floating up out of your body. Look down at yourself sitting there. See the room you are in. Now rise higher. See your house. See your street. See the cars moving like tiny insects. Rise higher still. See your city, a sprawling grid of lights and shadows. See the countryside, the mountains, the oceans. Now pull back until you see the earth itself, a fragile blue marble hanging in the endless, freezing void of space. From this vantage point, look for your problem. Look for the person who insulted you. Look for the traffic jam. Look for the embarrassment you felt at the meeting. Can you even see them? No, they have vanished. In the grand scale of the cosmos, your anger is smaller than a grain of sand. Your anxiety is a flicker of a candle in a hurricane. This is not meant to make you feel insignificant or depressed. On the contrary, it is meant to liberate you. It crushes the arrogance of the ego that says, my problems are the most important thing in the universe. They are not. You are a ghost driving a meat-coated skeleton made of stardust, riding a rock hurtling through space at 67,000 miles per hour. You are here for a blink of an eye. Do you really want to spend that precious, fleeting microsecond of existence being angry because the barista got your coffee order wrong? Do you really want to waste your life energy holding a grudge? When you zoom out, you realize that everyone around you is just like you, fighting, struggling, dying. The person attacking you is just another scared consciousness trapped in a mortal body. The view from above replaces judgment with pity and anger with peace. It reminds you that the only thing that matters is how you live now. Are you living with virtue? Are you living with courage? Everything else is just noise. The next time you feel the walls closing in, the next time the pressure feels unbearable, zoom out. Go to the stars. Realize how small the monster actually is. When you return to your body, you will find that the monster has shrunk and you have grown. We arrive now at the summit, the final and most powerful level of emotional mastery. We have learned to observe the storm. We have learned to prepare for the storm. Now we learn to love the storm. Friedrich Nietzsche described the formula for human greatness as AMOR FATI, a love of fate. That one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity. Not merely bear what is necessary, still less conceal it, but love it. This is the difference between resignation and celebration. Resignation says, I cannot change this, so I will grit my teeth and endure it. That is passive. It is heavy. Amor fati says, this is exactly what I needed. That is active. That is transformative. Imagine a roaring fire, a strong, blazing bonfire. If you throw a small twig into it, the fire consumes it. If you throw a giant log into it, the fire consumes it. If you throw a piece of garbage, a chair, or even a dead animal into it, the fire consumes it all. The fire does not say, "Oh no, I don't want this wood, it's too hard." No, the fire takes everything thrown at it and turns it into flame. It turns the obstacle into fuel. It becomes brighter, hotter, and stronger because of the obstacle. You must become the fire. Emotional mastery is not hoping for a life without obstacles. It is the ability to use every emotion and every event as fuel for your character. You lose your job? Good. Now you have the pressure you needed to start that business you've been dreaming of. It is fuel for your ambition. You get sick? Good. Now you have the time to slow down, to read, to appreciate the fragility of life. It is fuel for your gratitude. Someone betrays you? Good. Now you learn who your true friends are. Now you learn self-reliance. It is fuel for your wisdom. Do not misunderstand me. This does not mean you don't feel pain. It means you don't wallow in the pain. You feel the hit, yes. But then, immediately, the alchemist within you wakes up and asks, "How can I use this?" Instead of asking the victim's question, "Why is this happening to me?" you ask the master's question, "How is this happening for me?" This shift changes everything. It makes you invincible. Because if you can find the good in the bad, if you can find the opportunity in the crisis, then life cannot hurt you. You can only win. If things go your way, you win. If things go against you, you learn, you grow, you adapt, and you win. You are no longer playing a game of chance. You are playing a game of guaranteed growth. This is the ultimate control. It is not controlling the world. It is controlling your relationship with the world. It is looking at the chaos, the pain, and the tragedy in the eye and saying, I accept you, I embrace you, and I will use you. We have traveled a long way together in this video. We have journeyed from the chaos of the storm to the stillness of the lighthouse. We have dissected the biology of the brain, walked through the gap of power, rewritten our narratives, fortified our citadel, and ascended to the stars. But knowledge, my friends, is only potential power. Listening to these words does not make you a master. Applying them does. You will walk away from this screen and the world will test you. It might be 10 minutes from now. It might be tomorrow morning. Someone will test your patience. Something will go wrong. The storm will return. And in that moment, you will have a choice. Will you revert to the old you, the slave, the ship tossed around by the waves, or will you remember who you are? Will you remember to pause, to breathe, to step into the gap? Will you remember that you are the author of the story, not the character? Will you remember that you are the fire, and everything that happens is just fuel? Emotional control is not a destination. It is a daily war. It is a practice that you must commit to every single morning until the day you die. It is the price of freedom. But the reward? The reward is a life that is truly yours. A life where your happiness is not held hostage by external events. A life of dignity, strength, and unshakable peace. You have the tools, you have the map. The rest is up to you. If you have watched this far, it means you are not here for entertainment. You are here for transformation. You are part of the few who are willing to do the work. Prove it. Go down to the comments right now and write this declaration. I am the lighthouse. Write it to affirm it to yourself. Write it to signal to the universe that you are done being a victim. I am the lighthouse. And if you want to continue this journey of self-mastery, if you want to unlock the deeper wisdom of the ancients and the modern psychology of power, make sure you subscribe to Awakened Wisdom and turn on the notification bell. We are building a legion of masters here, and we want you in our ranks. Control your emotions, or they will control you. The choice is yours. Be the light.